if we're not building a foundation of discipline, it's going to be a hard 2023. But that discipline is not all fun and games. Listen, it's a war moving forward. And sometimes it's a war within the walls of your own house. All right, welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo. Go ahead and check in as you're coming on board. And thank you for joining me for another episode here. And I got a lot on my mind. I got a lot to say, and I'm going to try to say this all within 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. Last week we went down this conversation, and it took a little bit longer than I wanted, but it sounds like we were on the same page. Some of us are going through the very same things that tends to keep us the people we used to be, right? And it's hard, especially when we have all these reminders where one thing can take you all the way back. And our past is ruthless, right? Our past is unrelenting. Like any little thing, any little progression that we've made, one mistake, one wrong move, and all of a sudden, like, we're dealing with the battles we used to deal with 5 years ago, 10 years ago, all the way back to our childhood. It's like all of a sudden, we start processing things how we used to process them as a teenager, as a young adult. And, all these feelings start brewing up again, like if we were just living in that moment. And, this conversation is something that I bring up often about what our past does for us, the memories. They tend to, I think, debilitate many of our progression because there's just so much around us, right? Our past is just there, so vast in history that the very people are there to just constantly remind you of who you were, constantly remind you of what they've done for you, right? And this expectation of loyalty, this expectation of, hey, this is how you used to be. This is the fun we used to have. These are things we used to do. And then the shame that comes along with it, where they ask victim-like questions, right? Do you still love me? Do you still like the way I look? Like these things that make you the bad person, right, for progressing. And it's these things that tend to erode your business, that tend to erode your progression as an individual that wants to grow and expand. And I think that's the whole key to life, right? Is to grow and expand. But when we have constant people guilting us for the person you want to become, it's hard to fight those battles. And at first it seems like you can do this all day long, right? You could slay the dragon all day long and go off of just a few hours of sleep and continue to fight the battle. But over days, weeks, months, and years, that fight gets exhausting. And there's a part of us that wants to just take it easy, right? Like not have all this responsibility riding on our shoulders. So little by little, we tend to give in to those temptations. We tend to give in to the guilt and the shame that's brought by family and friends that you're not spending enough time with, that the ones you no longer laugh with, right? They bring up the past like it was this magical place, this place of just harmony and bliss. They only bring up the past of all the fun times, but not necessarily all the hardships, all the challenging times, right? That's forgotten. Like the past, it's forgotten. It's kind of like going back to a bad relationship. You forget all the bad things and only focus on the good things that were there. And before you know it, many people find themselves back into these toxic relationships when it comes to friends and family. It wasn't too bad. We convince ourselves, right? And, it's a hard battle to fight. It is. Sustaining this lifestyle is really difficult. And, many of us are coming back from this 30-day challenge, and I've seen significant differences in just attitude, right? And overall, just the way people present themselves and confidence and certainty that I see and also feel. I literally have seen bodies transform right before my eyes, right? And this is just the beginning of an uphill battle, a battle that never ends, right? Getting up to slay the dragon is exhausting and it never ends. And especially when you can see the flip side of it all, where, there's people over there that are having a good old time and they don't have to slay the dragon. As a matter of fact, they're worry-free. Look at them. Look how much fun they're having. And why am I here slaying the dragon every day? Being conscious about every decision, holding myself back from the things that my mind wants, holding me back from the things that people around me want. It's much greener. Over here, it's just all about discipline. Over here, it's no fun, we convince ourselves, right? And I've literally seen, this battle take its course. And I've seen people where they could sustain this battle for 6 months, a year, but then it becomes too much. Because history, right? The vast history, the rich history of our past is all around us, reminding us of how different you are, of how things used to be so much fun back in the day, about all the things they did for you. And we tend to oversee the fact that they haven't done much to reinvest into the relationship since then. But they expect this lifetime loyalty because of either the things they've done, how they've helped us in the past, or the labels that we were born into, right? The labels of family, the labels of father and mother and siblings, the labels of uncles and friends and best friends from college or high school. Like, the opposition is huge. The reminders, the rich history is there to guilt you, to shame you for working too much, for prioritizing yourself, for not relenting. It was good at first as long as it's only for 30 days. It's good at first as long as it's temporary. But then your actions continue to move forward. And it exposes them of how little they've done. But instead of stepping up, right, they'll just remind you of how things used to be. It's almost like a cloud in their own minds to hold themselves back. But you're now the target because you're the one who made the changes. You're the one who's not around family anymore. You're the one who doesn't call anymore. It's hard. You're the one who doesn't go out to dinner anymore or have drinks. We used to have so much fun. It's hard to fight that battle on a daily basis because your history is so rich and vast and it's got many friends. And it makes you forget how you felt going into your days, day in and day out. How miserable you actually were. How those drinks were just a way to escape. How that food was just a way for you to put your mind off your failing business or your failing marriage. We forget about those moments. We only remember the laughter. How carefree we were. But yet, we forget about the misery that we were bringing into our lives. Of how you yearned for more. Of how you wanted to be confident and certain. How you wanted to fit in your clothes and operate in your business. And how far away you were from that. We forget about those things. Because, again, your history is rich and vast with people with labels and memories of the person you used to be. And this happens. This happens in relationships often. It happens where we guilt our spouses of how fun and how happy we used to be. right? And holding on to a false narrative that wasn't factual at all. Because in those places, we just didn't know much about life. We didn't venture off to create something bigger. So how could it be better? It's a false narrative, because if things were just so perfect, they would have stayed that way. But yet you wanted to become more. So you stepped into this industry. And just because it came with a slew of responsibility doesn't mean you were off. You were just trying to improve yourself. But yet, here we are. Maybe my job wasn't so bad. I had a 6-figure job. I can't believe I walked away from that. We were so happy. And all we did is disregard the person that we wanted to become. All those experiences that come attached to it. Because it's a little bit hard right now. Right? It's dark for many. It seems like it's never going to turn around. And as opposed to just getting up to slay that dragon on little sleep, getting up to slay those demons when the battle has been nonstop, we're looking to the other side and holding on to a memory that really wasn't there. The best times are here. The best times are on the other side of whatever you're facing. But if we continue to cling on to the past, then we'll just stay there. We'll put a ceiling on ourselves and realize that the epitome of happiness was back then, which is, a broken way to look at life. These challenges that are put before us is because there's something greater on the other side. And yet, as long as we continue to hold on to the past, then we will limit ourselves just there. And, this conversation was brought upon because, ending a challenge that requires discipline, where it requires awareness, is exhausting. But yet it can create so much for us. It can create so much if we're able to identify patterns that don't serve us, people that no longer serve us. And it's all around us, which is unfortunate. It's usually brought by the people that we love most. And the conversation came up this morning, and it's like there are those around you that are just waiting for you to stop, so you guys could have fun again, so you guys can spend time together again, right? It's like these things are said to make you guilty and shameful for focusing on yourself and your loved ones, your kids, your body, your business. They bring shame upon you. And it's unfortunate, because I think we're meant for so much more. We're meant for, something greater. That means oftentimes we have to fight this battle alone. And it seems like the opposition, right, of mediocrity, complacency, temptations, is like, that's so much more fun. It's carefree. Everyone is friendly. And I want to read to you something that I wrote this morning. And I think it'll make sense. And this is the first time that I'm going through it, so just bear with me. And it starts off with, we can't be victim to the lies. Yes, it's hard and it's stressful, but none of us deserve it easy. Easy comes with a share of consequences that are not noticeable for weeks, months, or even years. The opposition is gentle and kind. He forgives me and coddles me. He agrees with me that people did me wrong, that I did nothing wrong. He accepts me for who I am. He is there to say I worked hard and I should enjoy my time off. He is there to say that this person led me to drink. It's their fault. It's there to tell me that why should I even try at all if this person or that person doesn't appreciate all I've done. The opposition is so forgiving, so understanding. He is my best friend. He gets me. He gets that things never work out, so why even try? He tells me to relax. He tells me to enjoy, to have one more. You deserve it. He convinces me that I've done enough. He slowly grows the jealousy and envy of others and secretly wanting them to fail. He distracts me with all the fun stuff on social media. He loves just decompressing with a little Netflix series or two. He likes to compare how far we've come as a reason to enjoy life. And I'll get into this. God is ruthless and a savage God. He's ingrained a feeling of being misaligned. He doesn't accept mediocrity. He is informing and rests on your heart. He reminds you instantly that you are behaving outside a standard that you have demonstrated you can operate in. He sits on your conscience, wanting more from you, even when you've exceeded your thresholds. He is never happy. He always puts all the responsibility on you, even when you feel it was against you. He doesn't blame anyone outside of you. He sits there like a person that knows, a person that is seeing you in your childlike ways. He refuses to coddle. He expects you to fight. He doesn't have time for your tears or stories. He wants you to stand up strong and fight. Nothing ever less than that. He wants you faithful in your journey. He won't help you up. He just reminds you of what you're made of. He will allow lessons of life to break you and expect you to rise. He consistently challenges us to the opposition that tempts us. A battle of who you were to who you want to become. He is the accountability partner with no feelings. It just is. You choose what is. But if you say it, he will not protect you from the onslaught of temptations, guilt, and shame that will come your way. He just stands there over you and says, get up, get up. What are you going to do about it? Get up now. The labels are strong. The labels and the memories are ingrained deep. The battle of who you were and who you want to be. Who you were has a vast history, a lopsided memory of how things used to be. It was so much fun. We were so happy together. If that were the case, then why did you start with anything? Why did you deviate from that? It was only a matter of time before it would have imploded. We look at our relationship and say we were so happy and have it as a measuring stick. How many times could you go out before you invite the consequences of it all? How many times can you bite your tongue? How many times can you give up on your dreams? How many times can you settle? Don't be caught by the false narrative of your past. It wasn't all great. You were avoiding what could be by holding on to the past that never really was. Trying to relive is simply trying to disregard the lessons we have learned along the way. The reason it looks so tempting is because the work it requires to live a life that is truly impactful to our purpose and our family. Yet these hardships, it's easy to think what was once the utopia. That is ignorance at its best. You are not pushing who would have left you there. If you were not pushing, you would have left you there. Think about all that stayed there. Can you really say it's better? Not once can I say that. And, I went down this path of really just explaining of, just the labels that we have attached to us. And, the constant battle that growth is not easy and it's going to leave you in a lonely place. But what's worse is realizing what you're capable of and then retracting back to your lowest form of habit. I've seen it firsthand with our own agents, with our own family members. And what a shame, right, to be able to fight the temptations of let's say things like drinking and being disciplined to trying to grow. And the battle is good. And you can fight it, you can withstand it until one day you don't. Then all of a sudden you question your own integrity. And you say, well, screw it. If I did it once, I can do it again. And before you know it, you're right back to those patterns that were leading you a path of destruction, a path that you wanted to deviate from. But it's no longer painful because all we remember was the fun times, all the fun times we had. But there's always consequences, and the consequences are always greater when we disregard it, especially becoming aware. I'm going to go ahead and read this. Let's see. It's funny because even a simple disagreement, right, can take us back years, kind of like some type of time traveler. And I wrote, my heart knows it was all a lapse. It was a frustration of it all, the pressure of it all, and the appeal of how we wanted to be set free of the responsibility and stress of it all. Now begins the sinister grin of mediocrity. Now begins the sinister grin of mediocrity. It's back, and it's only a matter of time. The opposition is patient, forgiving, and loving. It will curse you, but then it will easily forgive you. It will send you messengers with fun, guilt, or shame. It will pull out all the stops. It is forgiving, accepting you of who you are. You're perfect the way you are. You used to laugh so much. You used to enjoy life. Now you're serious all the time. You don't come to see us. You don't love us. Staying in relationships that no longer serve us because the guilt that you are leaving them behind. But they too have a choice, but they choose to hold back. The resistance becomes too much. They pull out all the stops. They get more people involved, like some type of intervention, all saying how you are not the same person, about how you work too much. You don't spend any time with them anymore. They ask victim-like questions, like, do you still love me? Do you still care about me? They are making it clear that it is you that must sacrifice, you that must hold back. It is you that is in the wrong. You have been doing everything right, and yet you have been doing everything right. How is it they can control us? They control us because they continue to drudge up the past. We allow ourselves to be hostage to the memories of what they did for us 5, 10, 15 years ago. How is it that loyalty is expected for a lifetime? Loyalty is earned and not expected. Yet the downfall is inevitable. The wiring is too much. The labels are too bright. The labels of husband, wife, mother, father, uncle, aunts, friends, best friends. That we hold on to that and raise their opinions over our own. How is it that they can continue to shame us or remind us of who we were? They are disregarding the work. But maybe the reason they disregard it is because of the shame when you do retract, even for a split second. Now it plays in your mind, and maybe you have not grown. That is the moment you tear down from the progress, and the progress emerges. It is only a matter of time before one time becomes two, and the frequency increases until you are back with your old friends, talking about the same old things. The responsibility of holding steadfast is too much, but now the consequences are deeper and more painful. You know the label you are capable. The label you are capable of, but now you've been exposed. You know the level you are capable of, but now you've been exposed. You don't trust yourself and want to lay blame on those that painted the picture to begin with. Resentment sets in for the person who painted that picture. I've been on the receiving end, and it's not pretty. Their life begins to unravel, not because of the process was wrong, but because sustaining a war all on its own. A war that requires you to fight many battles alone, and many within the walls of your own kingdom. I've seen it and I felt it. I didn't fail you, but you can lay blame on me. Unite your marriage on a mediocre level and blame me or blame someone else. It's a united front on a weak foundation. But let that drive you, but it'll only be short term. The truth always prevails. I went on a little bit of a tangent there, right? But these were all the thoughts in my mind of what the consequences and what the responsibilities are of living a life of choice, a life of doing the right things. It's an uphill battle. And it's one that you will tend to fight alone. But listen, once you become exposed to this, the consequences are vast and they're deep. And it may feel like you're all alone, but you're not. You're just looking at the wrong people. You're looking over your shoulder as opposed to looking forward. The people you need are in front of you, not behind you. The people you need are on the side of you, not in your past. And the habits that will fulfill your heart and soul are always those that require the discipline on a daily. And listen, guys, like Isaiah said this morning, we're 10% into the new year. 10%. And if we're not building a foundation of discipline, it's going to be a hard 2023. But that discipline is not all fun and games. Listen, it's a war moving forward. And sometimes it's a war within the walls of your own house. And you have to understand that there's a flip side to everything. When you're fighting for something great, it's because your soul knows that's the path you should be taking. Let the fun, let the games, let those from your past just be there. Because I've never ran into someone that stayed exactly the same and progressed. That never happens. And it may feel like you're out on a limb by yourself, but there's others just like you, and they're all around you. So fighting those demons, fighting that history, that rich history, is tough, and I get it. But we have so much more to build. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. I see a comment here, and if you have something to say, please share with me what's coming up to mind, because I know how challenging it is, and sometimes I just sit here, and I've been in the game long enough to be able to see the clues. And I've seen individuals like that have been students and have reached new levels only to rescind on their efforts and then create space, and before you know it, they're out as easy as they came in. And all of a sudden, scarcity becomes a major component to their decision-making skills, to their life. It's no longer about abundance, but it's about scarcity. It's about devaluing an environment, devaluing the process of what makes someone purpose-driven. So anyway, if you've been a little distant, I'm going to invite you to come back in. You don't have to carry the shame, because I'm only looking for the best of you. And listen, I may not be the right person that will coddle you or say it's going to be okay. I just know that the only way it'll be okay is if you rise. This makes me reflect and think of saying no rest for the wicked. I believe it should say no rest for the successful. You get too comfortable when you rest too much, and then success fails off faster than you can imagine. It's amazing how one wrong move can lead to another wrong move and completely erode everything we've built. It can erode a confidence and certainty. It can erode, appreciation for ourselves. And it happens often, especially in entrepreneurship, especially in this industry. And what I'm saying is it's only 10% of the new year, and we got plenty of work in front of us. You're not at the epitome of what you can create. You're not even at the epitome of happiness. This is just the beginning. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.